and she told me that I couldn't have a child and stay in her household.
My mom was on drugs. I got kicked out. So
my parents had kicked me out. I was basically like, they set a restraining order on me, so I couldn't go 100 feet near my house. And like, some days I had to stay out the streets all night.
Most of the time it isn't the youth's fault, the position they're put in. Like, I was an excellent kid. I went to school every day and I got good grades, excellent grades. I participated, I volunteered. But I still had a messed up life, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't my fault.
my mother was incarcerated in 2009. Me and my uncle got into a physical altercation due to his intoxication. And he had put me out like 3 o'clock in the morning, no cell phone, nowhere to go, nothing to do. So I kind of like slept in the hallway, you know, for like a whole night. The toughest thing about being homeless is when your friends say, Joy, can I come over? I'm like, no. And I practically live in this fantasy world at school because there's no way I'll tell my friends, my teachers, or anyone that I interact with. That's pretty embarrassing for me when someone asks me, who do you go home with? I'm going to fib and say, I go home to my uncle. I'm not going to tell them where I'm really going because it takes a bit of your dignity, not just your pride, not just, you know, your energy at the moment, but it takes away your energy, period, that you don't have a support system at home.
The hardest part is not knowing where you're going to go, like the next day, not knowing like what's your next step, like where you're going to be, you know.
If you're going to someone else's house or you're going to a little area in the bush or wherever it is that you're going to go crash at for the night, you have to deal with everyone else's issues, and it's a spontaneous environment and you never know what's going to happen, and that gives you a really dreadful stress. And it's like when I'm at school, I try not to think about it, but when that bell rings and I know my activities are all over, I'm like, what am I about to walk into? I don't know. I'll find out when I get there.
Sometimes I don't eat every day. Sometimes I don't really eat. Like, majority, basically, I only eat 1 meal per day. I only can eat breakfast sometimes, or maybe even lunch, but I always skip dinner.
I knew a few people that, like, they end up on the streets and they end up or turn to violence or they didn't know what to do. They're just trying to make a quick buck to have a shelter over their head.
If you out on the streets, you're going to get in trouble. Like, you have nowhere to go, you're going to go and do something stupid. Selling drugs and fighting. And if you sleeping on the streets, you got to worry about somebody stealing your stuff. And it's just a lot of girls, prostitutes, and just unnecessary stuff that can be involved if they had somewhere to go.
Just who you wanna be, and every night you shine, just like a superstar. That's how the life is played, a tempting masquerade. You dress, you walk, you talk, you're who you think you are. Street life, you can run away from time. Street life, for a nickel or a dime. Street life, but you better not get old. Street life, or you're gonna feel the cold. There's always love for sale, a grown-up fairy tale. Prince Charming always smiles behind a silver spoon. And if you keep it young, your song is always on. Your love will pay your way beneath the silver moon.
Welcome to the SAUVER Talk Show. My name is M. Lord, and today we have Mariah Cartagena and Deani Lewis. Today we're going to be talking about homeless teens. Homeless teens are increasing every day. and what can we do about it?
Recent studies show that there is over 1 million homeless teens in America alone. And this goes to sharing addresses when it comes to the school system. They found out that many teenagers live in the same address, which is inaccurate and can't happen. It's impossible homeless.
So how do you feel? Like, what do you think made these teens become homeless?
I remember going out and interviewing homeless people, and just from my me retaining of what I observed, a lot of teens don't listen to their parents. I think that's maybe one thing. You know, rebellion, you know, runaways is also a part of homelessness. You know, they're running away from home.
I actually had a friend one time, and you know, her parents and her family go from house to house, and it's very difficult for them. And I seen the, you know, the trauma and the trouble she had to go through. I mean, there was days that, you know, it kind of looked like she wore the same outfits, and I couldn't imagine the criticism and the judgmental people that were judging her. How do you feel about that?
I think it starts in the home, whether the parents had a tough situation with their lives and then birthing a child and not being able to financially, you know, take care of the child.
And you know, these teens, these young adults becoming prostitutes, you know, a lot go to stripping as, you know, something to just get a couple bills. You know, others, they hang with the wrong crowds and end up being with gangs, start selling drugs.
From my observation, it's usually rebellion, you know, rebellion against their parents, or rebellion against the school system, rebellion against authority in general. It also, the cause of teens being homeless is drug addiction, selling maybe.
But with the actions of kids doing delinquent activities, it starts from the home. You know, you don't just pick up traits from anywhere. Mm-hmm. It can be within the home, and nobody could have any idea because the kid has no one to go to. And I think that's a big part in homeless kids. They don't have someone to go to. They don't have a voice of their own. So they turn to the bad. And that causes, you know, problems with family. You know, I know a lot of people who live with family members. I know a lot of people who aren't financially stable in their house, and they can't afford certain things.
Usually teens that are being homeless, you know, in the female category, they turn to prostitution because they feel as though there's no other option, no other way to get funds. And, you know, it really breaks my heart because, you know, especially when I go to New York and I'm going on the train and I see all these homeless people just sleeping on the sides, using whatever, you know, maybe a trash bag to cover themselves as a blanket. Like, that is just insane. And, you know, and I'm just thinking, where are their parents? You know, where's their who's the authority in their lives? And what are their parents thinking? Are they even thinking where they are? You know, are they even thinking about them? You know, it's just heartless, and you know, it just makes me wonder.
Like you said about the females, males also affiliate themselves in gangs because they feel like that's their home, that's their family. They don't have enough support at home, so they feel like, you know, selling drugs, carrying weapons, protection for their group. They feel like that's their way of life. And this can lead to parents kicking them out of their homes, them being on their own, and that's another way.
There's also a lot of females and males that have been raped, and you know, people tend to not believe them, and everything in their house just goes left, so they choose to leave, and their only option is just being in the streets and being homeless. And later on it turns to prostitution and selling their bodies. And you know, it's really sad because then, you know, there's a lot of people that have AIDS, STDs, and you know, there's no way to prevent it.
That subject is actually really crazy because some parents really don't condone rape. There's some cultures that really don't condone it. If they find out that their offspring was raped, some of them get beaten, some of them get prosecuted. I've read many articles on this. Some of them get, you know, bashed away from their home or even their land. So that's probably also maybe a reason why they're homeless. They feel as though they could trust. They put their
Another
trust
male or another female.
They tell their parents, oh, I got raped. Usually the parents should. I feel as though the parents should be supportive of them, and some of them they're just like
it's so
they just
sad.
push them.
And when you don't have a
Push them
voice
away.
at home, you don't have anyone to talk to, it's really hard for you to, live with the fact that you've been hurt in that way. And runaways, that's when running away to find love or running away to get a peace of mind for your own.
Yeah.
That's why I see so many teens lost, living at a friend's house, crashing on an aunt's couch because they don't have the support at home, like you said, with not having a voice, their parents not believing them and giving them the time that parents should.
And it should never get to that point. It should never get to the point of homelessness. There's so many other options, and I just feel like these teens are not aware of the many options that they actually have. Maybe we should start bringing up more awareness on more options of where these teens could go to if they ever, feel as though they're not maybe safe as home, or they can't be home, or they need a place to, just get away.
There's hotlines, there's counselors,
Yeah.
there's groups. There's so many different options instead of just going to the street. Because, going to the street, yeah, it's all cool for that one day, but
It's hard out there.
it's
crazy
hard
out there.
to make a living being in the street, It's hard to even get a job nowadays.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's so many other options that, a lot of teens can go to.
A homeless teen teens going into prostitution, it doesn't just occur out of nowhere. They don't just, wake up one day and say, hey, I want to prostitute. It's with past events. It's with an upbringing. Some of them were raped at a young age. And, as they grew older, they evolve into a prostitute. And when confronted, by their parents, or, when they go to tell of what they are to their parents, the parents don't cope with that, and they're kicked out. And, that's kind of...
That leads them to, just find love and find a home somewhere else, which leads them to sell their bodies even more. And, there's a lot of teens now that are pregnant. The pregnancy rate is just going up, and it's crazy. And then it's like, you get pregnant and you have nowhere to stay. The baby daddy doesn't want nothing to do with you because you were
insane.
just a piece of meat for that one night, and that's it.
The homeless females who are pregnant, like, with no home, like, how are they...
From experience with friends, I've seen certain people be taken advantage of at a young age and leave out and find love, like you guys talked about, and end up with STDs or pregnant and left to fend for themselves because their parents don't want to deal with that after not being warned of everything and all of the dangers, and not being, not having to sit down and talk to their parents about certain things that can go on in the real world.
My parents are understanding, but I have the type of parents that shield me from everything. They try to keep me inside. You don't know about this, you don't know about that. And as a child in high school, my sophomore year, I'm 16, of course I'm going to want to experiment and do different things. And with that, that goes without permission and behind their back and hiding stuff from them. And I know it's not right, but how am I supposed to learn in my years of adolescence if I don't know? Usually I end up getting caught, and it's like, how come you couldn't come talk to us and tell us this? But it's kind of like, you won't, hey mom, I want to go out to this party. If you shield me from the party, how will I ever know how parties work?
When the parents are too strict, I believe it makes the child feel vulnerable because they feel like they can't come to their parent and talk to them. So now they have to find somebody else to go to. And sometimes they turn to the streets. They turn to gangs and stuff like that and find somebody to talk to, but it don't be the right way to do it. They turn to violence and stuff like that to express their feelings because they can't come home and talk to their parents. Honesty is very important. I believe that whether it's not is in school or your family or a workplace or something like that, you should always be honest, because I feel like if you're not honest, then nobody's gonna have trust in you. If you can't come to a person and tell them straight up what's going on, they're not gonna want you working for them. They're not gonna want you in their house because they don't trust you at all. So you have to build that relationship with somebody, because somebody's not gonna trust you straight off the back anyway. So now you have to build that trust. And if you build it a little bit and then you do something to mess it up, then the trust is not there. So that's why you have to be honest all the time, because if you're honest just a little bit and then you slip up and you lie here, it's like the person is now wondering, like, should I trust them or not, or like what's going on with this person.
I mean, if it's just a regular conversation, I mean, you should automatically be honest. But I feel like sometimes honesty can hurt, you know? So, I mean, sometimes you're like, do I be a little bit too honest, or do I like sugarcoat it? Perfectly said. Sometimes, in certain situations, I think, you know, honesty, being too honest can be wrong. Unless I would ask about a situation, that's why I feel as though I should be honest. Unless something, you know, goes wrong, I have to go to my parents, obviously.
So, you know, parents being overprotective, you know, it does pertains to the dangers out in the world, you know. Doesn't that play a big factor?
Definitely. I understand exactly where parents come from, or wanting to shield their child from the dangers of the world, because the world is a dangerous place. But eventually, I'm gonna have to fly. I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to move out. I'm gonna have to experience the world on my own. So, do you want to kick me out there with no experience?
I think they should tell you, you know, inform you, educate you, and then let you fly. You know, don't let your bird fly clueless. Exactly.
Little by little. I'm not saying, hey, let me go out and do this and do that. But if I want to go to New York, hey, I'll keep in contact with you. Tell me the dangers, how to get
me halfway, you know? I feel like compromise, you know? Mom, I want to go here, but I'll let you speak to the parent. I'll give you all the contact information. You know, I feel like there's a balance. You can meet halfway.
Yes.
So you could do things and experiment, you know?
Thanks to technology.
Exactly.
Being honest to your parents is very important, because the more you don't tell them, the more they don't know. So basically, whatever you hold in, they really don't know. And when you come to them, and when you wait, the longer you wait to come to them and tell them, they really don't understand what you're going through. Or even if your parent is not that approachable, or you think they're going to say something, you still should always go to them and tell them, because that's how you build a bond with your parents. You have to talk to them and you have to build that relationship. And if neither one of you are trying, then y'all won't have a relationship.
Can it be detrimental to the child by not being honest?
It can be detrimental to the child if they are not honest, because you're living in a whole fairy tale, in my opinion. Like, you're not telling anybody what you're doing or what's happening. So I feel like you should be honest, because when you're honest, more stuff come out of being honest than lying or not telling somebody at all. When the parents are too strict, I believe it makes the child feel vulnerable, because they feel like they can't come to their parent and talk to them. So now they have to find somebody else to go to. And sometimes they turn to the streets. They turn to gangs and stuff like that and find somebody to talk to, but it don't be the right way to do it. They turn to violence and stuff like that to express their feelings, because they can't come home and talk to their parents. If you would like to be a part of SAUVER, or you would like more information about our organization, please feel free to copy down all the information that will be shown to you at the end of the show on the screen. SAUVER helps a lot of youth in the community, saving them one hand at a time. Stop anger, unfold violence, educate, and redeem. SAUVER.
But I feel like sometimes honesty can hurt, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, sometimes you're like, do I be a little bit too honest, or do I, like, sugarcoat it?
Perfectly said. Sometimes, in certain situations, I think, you know, honesty, being too honest can be wrong. Unless I would ask about a situation, that's where I feel as though I should be honest, unless something, goes wrong and I have to go to my parents, obviously. But as far as coming to my parents whenever I like someone or whenever I want to experiment with certain things in life, I think honesty comes out if they ask me or if they're concerned about my life. And as a parent, they should take it. I think that parents, they try to stop what you're doing. They try to stop your experiences and try to hide things from you when, honestly, I believe that we should be exposed to it. You should teach us right from wrong, teach us, hey, I know you might be interested in this, but here comes the...
Especially if they experienced it,
Exactly.
And I feel like nowadays, since you would think that they've been through so much that they will be there to guide you a little bit more and be a little bit more supportive. But I don't feel like people really get that.
I know people's parents' parenting differs. With my mom, she, there's some parents that, they tell you, like, they're very protective. They tell you not to do this and that. With my mom or with my father, they're the type to, tell me about certain things, tell me to not do this and that. But at the end of the day, they let me go out and experience. And then, when I fall into a hole or, I go back to them, they're like, I told you so.
Yeah.
They let me experience and, I'm grateful for that,
I agree.
Thank you for watching SAUVER Teen Talk Show. SAUVER meaning Stop Anger, Avoid Violence, Educate, and Redeem. Tune in next time.
Be somebody's testimony. You've been going through some storms and adversities. No one to lean on. You feel you have no victory. But if you hold to God's hand, soon you will understand that it's all in His plan for you. You may have even asked yourself the question, will I ever win? It seems I suffer through pain and strife, and when I'm rising, I fall again. Oh, but the word declares, if you suffer with Him, you'll reign with Him. And soon you will understand that it's all in His plan for you. There will be glory. Right after this trial, soon the storm's gotta pass over. Hallelujah. There will be glory outside this, yeah. Give God all the honor and the praise, for He's standing right there.